because historically they haven't done well in Grandmasters, right? We've seen a lot of churn. You know, Empanizado had some shining moments, but even though not South America, Latin America in his regard, but it's been rough. And Rami and Algidon both had some big struggles in season 2 of 2020, and they both started off rough in week 1. You know, not really earning many points. Tincho did have a decent week 1 and now has put himself in a good spot for week 2. And he was a player that probably didn't even expect to be in Grandmasters going into this year. And he just visibly on camera, he looks like a player that's so hungry to prove himself, so hungry to prove that he belongs. Like closing his eyes when he thinks that his opponent might have a card that's going to screw up his game plan, and just being super emotive, looking worried and stressed all the time. I love that because it means he's invested in these games. And love to see the hungry new players come and try and make a splash, especially against players like Luna, who historically the highest win rate player overall in Americas, only rivaled by Eddie, I guess, who's up there as well in win rate in the history of Grandmasters.
Yeah, you're looking at a player who has made it to 3 World Championships running and is looking for her 4th, while also competing at high levels in other games. I mean, she is a savant at whatever she sets her mind to in terms of these strategy games. And Hearthstone has been the main focus for quite some time, with some strong streaks of dominance for years. And so now Tincho has to really start at the top, right? Like, no time like the present to really prove yourself, I suppose. As right now, Tincho trying to figure out what's the best way to utilize early mana, given that his Demon Hunter's off to a pretty decent start, right? Gul'dan's in a pretty good spot. Just have to play the Eldrazi Warblades and will be able to get himself going. The issue is that Rogue is really good at ramping up the pressure very quickly, anchored by that Kazakus that was just drawn. And so Luna, I mean, everything that's looking pretty straightforward for her curve. And the question will be pretty much about whether or not Tincho can do a good job of balancing how much resources he uses to abate her aggression.
Yeah, this is not a terrible hand to do that. Tincho has a skull that's very easy to get into outcast position. May be able to do it this turn with just an Eldrazi Warblade equipped. Because of the redundancy and combo pieces in OTK Demon Hunter now, with Talented Arcanist, with philosophy, double philosophy for Moargs, you can expend these combo pieces earlier on to try and keep control of the board. This could be just as easy as Hero Power Fellscream Blast to clear up the board. Then next turn could just be Eldrazi Warblades, and then you're set up for Coin Skull on 5, which seems like a nice sequence of events. Doesn't use too many resources, holds on to Moargs, I-Beam, second Fellscream Blast. And then Tincho's actually not that far away from just winning the game. If Tincho hits a discounted Il'gynoth from that skull, we might be looking at a very quick game number 1.
True. There are some explosive turns from the Demon Hunter that can win as soon as, turn 7, which is not what you really expect out of a slower combo deck, but it's not really that slow, as it turns out. Speaking of things that aren't super slow, is the Kazakus that can give you the 5-mana Golem, and Luna has the ability to play that next turn. I think it was the draw 2 cards. I didn't get to see the first effect being taken. But that's good, because Luna's hand was looking quite fragile, right? Like, not actually like a strong board. Everything would just be easily picked off by these small little attacks and spells. Now we start to actually see what the Rogue can do with some of these draws. But, I mean, Tincho is also about to draw a ton of cards himself.
I am very interested in what this skull picks up. Okay, I-Beam, not the greatest. Spectral Sight, not the greatest. Ildar Studies, not the greatest. All right, so no combo pieces reduced. I-Beam, technically, yes. But other than that, nothing that gets Tincho closer to winning the game super fast, like we both mentioned, was a possibility. But still has some time. Lifesteal Weapon equip, I-Beam plus Morgs in hand that can be expended are definitely ways that he could buy himself time. The second skull being in the very middle of the hand, that's difficult, right? That's going to be very hard to get in the outcast position. Nearly impossible, especially if combo pieces are taken off the top, because the left side of the hand is all combo pieces. But definitely some room to work with for Tincho.
Yeah, what started off to be a promising hand has now turned into a very awkward hand. Tincho has to navigate that as Luna will continue to mount that pressure. Colt Neophyte, a very nice addition to the board. Making the spells cost a little bit extra with all those discounts makes it feel like it was all for naught, right? Like the idea that this Illidari Studies is still free in the Spectral site as well, but everything else is going to be just a little bit too hard to justify using. Now he picks up another combo piece. So, how does Tincho navigate this situation? Are we using a Moarg here, TJ, in order to try and stabilize? I feel like that's something that's on the table, but you do have to be mindful of what you're giving up, and as a result, what the game plan looks clear. One of the easiest things to do with Demon Hunter is identify a board clear. The hardest thing to recognize is what does this restrict in terms of your future plays and damage moving forward.
Yeah.
They will never catch me.
Not great. Not great.
Yeah, I was trying to think of some creative way here. What would be the most efficient way to try and hit Fellscream Blast? Or not Fellscream Blast, Immolation Aura. And I even would consider just 0 mana Spectral Sight here just to try and hit it.
Yeah.
But gotta be wary of how many combo pieces Tincho's expending. This looks like it has to be an I-Beam just to heal maximum amount, and maybe... Did he get it off? Okay, got it off. Hero Power didn't matter because he was attacking into a Divine Shield, so I guess that's pretty much the cleanest turn that he could have made. That's just the hand is so awkward. The way these cards have come into hand, Il'gynoth blocking Spectral Sights and Skull from the right side, and the Moarg and Fellscream Blast, which are essentially needed at this point, at least the Fellscream Blast, to deal lethal damage, blocking the Skull on the left side in the Spectral Sight. So these are going to be, just draw 3 or draw 1. He is close to lethal damage because of all those combo pieces, but needs to hit a couple of crucial ones. Philosophy, the Talented Arcanist, and will he have time to do that? That's the big question.
Yeah, it's tricky because, Tincho also has already used some of the important resources, right? 1 Morg, 1 Fellscream Blast already used. And so to utilize, and an I-Beam, so to utilize that means that he will be less in the combo range potential, but I think he's not even concerned about that as much right now because he doesn't even have discounts to combo anyway. So right now, comboing to win the game is really off the table. And Luna's doing a great job just slowly mounting the pressure, right? Nothing has ever screamed out on the board as being the biggest of threats outside of the 5/5 Golem with Divine Shield. And everything else is just a little bit extra, turning up the temperature just a couple of extra degrees. And now Tincho, he's under hot water.
I will find a way.
Looks actually incredibly close to just lethal damage. There's no way that Tincho can... Well, there is a way to clear off the... No, there's no way to clear off the Octobot without giving up the discount. So Luno has 10 mana available next turn. Can go Alex Straza, Mana Biscuit, Wicked Stab, 13 damage from hand. If any one of these minions stick that has 2 or more attack, that's lethal from hand for Luna. I don't think there's a single card that can actually find the extra 2 damage that can be played for 1 mana in the deck without Mankrik being played. No Tenwu combos available unless Tincho leaves this board up, and if he does, he's dead anyway. Can Tincho set up for a 2-turn? Is Philosophy enough? No, because it wouldn't be discounted. That would be 8 mana.
No. Yep. He has to also use one right now to use the I-Beam or Fellscream Blast, one or the other.
Whoa.
Oh, no. Did he not get the
Fellscream
off in time?
Initiating overdrive.
May have. Okay, looks like he just barely got it. To go back to what you were saying before, which is Luna still has a lot of damage. With that Alexstrasza and the Wicked Stab and the ability to play Jandis off the top. Wow, okay. What comes out of the summoning? Envoy and the Morshon. The Envoy Rustwix is so powerful. It's a card that we really were not sure about its power level because we weren't, these shuffle cards were always hit or miss. And when it hits really hard. The only issue is that Luna doesn't really have many sources of card draw. She's going to be drawing one card per turn indefinitely unless she finds another way to get deeper in her deck to a field contact. So that is one thing to consider. But still, quality minion and a situation where Luna has to most likely deal with this Morg. And then from there, she just win the board. Tincho has used 2 Thellscreen Blasts as well, something to keep in mind.
And an I-Beam. So there's 1 I-Beam and 1 Eldrazi Warblades. That's it. That's the only lifesteal that's left remaining. So I don't even think Tincho has the... no, he does have the damage because but he needs Talented Arcanist here to be reduced.
The Arcanist. He can't really part ways with too many more combo pieces, I think, at this stage.
Yeah. He can't part ways with any combo pieces.
Right. So Morg plus the second Morg, if he gets a second Philosophy, is 3, 6, 12 off the I-Beam. Does he still have an Eldrazi Warblades in his deck?
He does.
Okay,
I just don't think at this point. I don't think it gets there, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it. Unless he's able to generate another. The spell damage gives him +2, so he's able to double that. It still seems like he's going to come short simply because Luna has 29 life. I'm counting somewhere in the low 20s right now, based off what I know about Tincho's deck. Yeah. Still kind of points to the problem that Luna. Well, Luna might kill Tincho before that combo even comes to fruition because I'm realizing the Alexstrasza and the dagger is pretty close already. It's really about this Ogremancer and whether or not Luna wants to commit to it, understanding that the Sigil will activate and deal 3 damage to everything next turn.
Yeah, I honestly think this might be Ogremancer and dagger just because that's the most... I don't know, that's an 8/8. I was thinking of Alexstrasza. I always just tunnel in on the battle cry. It's like, if Alexstrasza this turn, I'll say a 2/2 lethal. It's an 8/8. It's almost always setting up a 2/2 lethal, but Ogremancer kind of gives that surprise factor where Tincho may feel a little bit safe. He knows that there's a Mana Biscuit in hand because he saw the conjured Mana Biscuit played, and then 1 random card that's just been sitting in hand that's reduced.
Mm-hmm. Well, I like the Ogremancer because Tincho's plays involve spells, and it's just going to make things more complicated for Tincho. And Illidari Studies is going to be the start of that. Finds another I-Beam. How much damage is this?
There's no... Wait, there is enough mana to do Moarg, Il'gynoth, double I-Beam, but that's not enough damage. We need a Talented Arcanist because it would be... each one would be 6. Or double to 6, double to 12, 24 damage total. So, not there.
Yeah, and now Tincho in that position that's so awkward, which is dealing with the Ogremancer, but we all know that the Alexstrasza in hand is going to be an additional 8 plus a dagger. Okay, Warblades, Arcanist. Oh, if he was just a little bit deeper in his deck, a little bit more set up, he still could do this. But it does not seem to be in the cards, TJ. Yeah, I think it's Immolation Aura, and you just gotta hope that this is enough to stabilize. Good news, Tincho's not dead yet. Bad news, Luna's 1 draw away from ending it. That is a swindle. And Luna has the opportunity to play that, draw a minion. I mean, still has the opportunity with the Mana Biscuit too to restore mana and finish this game.
And the cycle of life is reborn.
But a small window of hope for Tincho. Very small. Getting wider, though, with each passing second that Luna isn't snap playing her cards for lethal.
How does Tincho deal 26 damage with the cards that are left in his deck?
Oh my goodness. Shadow Step and Tenwu. Yeah, I mean,
Shadow Step this every time to not give Tincho a target, and also because, like you said, being able to play Oxshots the next turn, Tenwu, and then being able to play it again can pretty much get through all the damage. And this is just nowhere near enough.
It's
no reductions on the combo pieces.
Yeah, absolutely not. Now Tincho's wondering about survivability, right? Like, does he simply attack and pass? I guess he can play Blood-Based Challenge for the draw. The spell damage here is going to be super impactful. Try to survive the Alex Strauza burst, but we know about the Tenwu, which will give Alex the bounce to the second battle cry, a sigh of relief, as Luna will be able to close out game one. It actually ended up becoming a little bit closer than I anticipated. I think Tincho hung in there as well as he could have. I think the debate is whether or not he needed to use things like the Fell Scream Blast to survive, but it's easy to say in hindsight, right? Because if he didn't, would he have died and not had the ability to pop off with the combo? Pretty tight game number one, but Luna was able to get that victory. TJ, any immediate thoughts in post game when we look back at some of the highlights here?
Yeah, not much to say on Luna's side. Just good setup, good recognition of just pushing damage at all costs, right? Daggering up, making sure to swing with the dagger because of the low cost of the hand to try and get that damage. From Tincho's side, very smooth early game, right? It looked great, being able to easily get that skull into outcast position, not super awkward, but it was after that, not finding any reduced cost combo pieces. Having all of the outcast cards be stuck in the middle of full cost combo pieces. That's what made it awkward. And I think he did close to the best of what he was supposed to do. At a certain point, like the turn where he used the second Fell Scream Blast, I think that's one of those turns where you just have to risk Luna having the burst damage from hand, hold on to it, and hope that you're able to just find the lethal over the next, like on the next turn. Because he might have had some outs if Talented Arcanist comes off the top. It was just a very awkward point of the game where not able to get combo pieces discounted and always being threatened by lethal outs from Luna. So tough game, but still think OTK Demon Hunter is one of the best decks in the metagame currently when played at a high level, and Tincho has shown us over the past 2 weeks that he can play it at a high level.
Totally, and maybe the draws next time around, if Tincho is given the opportunity, will end up being more favorable. In the meantime, we're going to head over to game number 2 in preparation for it. Luna has queued up her mid-range Demon Hunter. We saw what it could do previously with Eddie and the power of Illidari Inquisitor to be able to attack the enemy after you attack with your hero. And over on Tincho's side, what does Tincho end up queuing here? Is it just simply going to OTK Demon Hunter once more? This mid-range Demon Hunter has shown a lot of power and range. It does seem to struggle a little bit on the upstart, right? We did see that it can get a little bit overwhelmed if people are building up an aggressive board ahead of it. And I think maybe this Aggro Paladin can do exactly that, as long as it doesn't get a little bit out of Tincho's hands. Secret Paladin or just an aggressive Paladin like this list has been very effective and absolutely terrorizing ladder for quite some time, TJ.
Yeah, it's a solid deck. It's also one of those, feast or famine decks, it seems, where you can get a handful of nothing early on, and the deck it's one of those decks in the metagame that's oftentimes reliant on its momentum, because the secrets really don't do much if you don't have board, right? Oh my god can sometimes be disastrous for your opponent, but Avenge, Galloping Savior, those types of things, if you're not able to have minions to threaten it and make it awkward for your opponent and disrupt with the secrets, they really don't do much. And there was a lot of players and casters alike saying that yes, Secret Paladin dominates on ladder, but when you put it in a field with great Hearthstone players that are playing around secrets to the best of their ability, it's not as strong. And I think that's somewhat held true. over the course of the first couple weeks, but I still think the deck has quite a high power level.
Yeah, coming in just a little bit below its win rate from week one. Week one, Paladin had a 47.4% win rate with 150 games and change. And then you have 47.2 this week. So basically at the same win rate despite the nerfs, which I guess is a sign of that the deck is resilient. But also the fact that it's on the bottom half of classes is also worth noting. So the data definitely backs up your thesis, TJ. And we'll see if this game can add either to that direction or a little bit against it. Oh My Yogg to start things off, a really fun secret. Definitely one of the funniest to watch. One of the most frustrating for me to play against. But who knows what's in that box. As you can see immediately the coin just being immediately thrown away. And I think that's an exchange that Luna is totally cool with. Yes, you would love to be able to use that extra mana, but at least it's not a more impactful spell like Skull go down later.
Yeah. Yeah, to go back to your point a little bit about the data, I think the biggest reason is because in week number 1, everybody was expecting Paladin. If they didn't have a way to deal with it with their lineup, they were banning it. And if they did have a way to deal with it, they were leaving it up. And that's why it was like relatively low win rate and because it was an expected deck. Whereas this week, I think players weren't expecting it as much. And so even though it's lower in power level, it still held a similar win rate just because it was being left up. It wasn't being as respected. And so it snuck in more wins than it would have despite its overall lower power level.
Yeah, funny how that works.
That's a good draw.
Yeah, speaking of, this works very nicely. Demon Claws for 0, being able to attack the goody 2 shoes. Already had, I believe, confirmation of no other secret that could potentially destroy that, as you do every now and then see a noble sacrifice on ladder, but the lists are known. So Tincho comes across a young priestess and an armor vendor from the first day of school. Little bit awkward. And I already start to question whether or not the Paladin has lost the board at this stage. Yep. You do have the secrets up, so you can get, nice avenge, building up other stuff, and have the ability to stop your opponent from playing too many cards, or at least risk activating your Galloping Savior. Yeah, this is definitely not a position that Tincho wanted to be in.
No. This one is quite rough. The benefit, though, of having double Sword of the Fallen in the opening is that average draw is going to be pretty good, right? There's not going to be secrets coming off the top. There's only one secret left in the deck, which is the second Avenge. So if Tincho can manage to survive this part of the game, which Demon Hunter does have whiffs for turns, right? Again, their strategy is very one-dimensional. If they don't have early minions, they can really only kill one thing outside of Warglaze of Azzinoth turns. But Luna's been able to curve out exceptionally. And when you are able to fight the Paladin early on board and then keep the curve going and keep presenting threats, that's when they struggle the most.
I love tempo options off the Golem. And tempo option, I'm pretty sure every tempo option is available to Luna. Rush, deal damage to minions, give your opponent, your friendly minions +2/+2. That's pretty much all you want against things like the Paladin to ensure that they can't ever get the value trades against you. Things are starting to really spiral out of control for Tincho. The worst draw in his deck possible. It's completely unplayable this turn, and it's the second copy of what he already was thinking about on turn 6. So rough stuff here for Tincho into game number 2. Just has the hero power. And this is green light, clear skies all the way for Luna Love. She can blast off. And I mean, this feels over, TJ. This feels completely over to me. Oh man, what do you even do?
That is so good. Doesn't hit the Avenge. Tincho, decent start. Both Sword of the Fallen's able to pull every secret out of his deck. But again, if you don't have the minions on the board to improve the ability of those secrets, it's going to be rough. Yeah, Luna can just play a full cost Bladed Lady, trade over this, and push 5, and feel great about it, which isn't always the case with Bladed Lady, right?
Yeah, it plays around all the secrets. And yes, you don't get the mana discount, but you're keeping your tempo up. Okay, that's helpful.
Yeah, the hard part is the deck doesn't run that many spells, specifically like cheap spells. Most of the spells that the mid-range Demon Hunter runs are like high-impact, necessary spells like Skull and the Relentless Pursuit that are in hand. So this is actually a kind of awkward turn to deal with this. And Tincho's follow-up, yes, the double Hammer of the Naru drawn in that sequence was rough, but being able to swing next turn, re-equip Hammer of the Naru, and get another 6/6, that's pretty good. Because this Gossiper, it's not easy for Luna to dissect this board. And the one thing that I've learned about Secret Palette is that like Conviction off the top when you have board is just the nuts. It's a lot of damage to push. It's a lot of burst damage.
True.
So let's try and figure this out for Luna. She really can only play one more card without risking the Galloping Savior. And then if you play Galloping Savior, you need to kill it. Then the Avenge procs, the Gosper gets big. There's no way to get past any of this to get the Gosper. It looked great for a while, and now it looks terrible just with one turn. That's how crazy.
I would say this to say it looks terrible is a little bit of a steep jump for me. I think I would just equip this Warblaze because you want to play the Illidari next turn. So yes, the Avenge activates. Yes, the Gosper gets even bigger, and you're talking about power, but it's not going to be game-ending.
Conviction is lethal. Okay.
Unless she draws Conviction. You're right. I forgot the +2/+2 would actually give him the 21. And I have been surprised. I have even gotten to double Conviction at one point where they gain +12 and I die on turn 6. That was not fun. But, the Paladin doesn't do that very often. So Tincho playing to his outs wasn't immediately rewarded, but is still given a little bit of hope from a situation that looked quite dire. Now the question is, of these two cards, which is better? Obviously, the Hammer of the Naru, more mana efficient, very clean, but Goody Two Shields might, secretly be more resilient because of that Divine Shield aspect, and I think Tincho wants that sticky minion presence so that he could have that Conviction off the top, try to hit a minion guarantee. That being said, I mean, this is just the most power that he can offer right now, and it's up to Luna to show that she can deal with it.
Okay. So first thing we need to check for is lethal. It's slightly off because Illidari Inquisitor would rush into the 6/6, 7 would go face, another 8, so it's 15 damage to face. Because other than this is awkward. Luna can't easily get through the 6/6. Illidari Inquisitor, in order to kill the Gosper, would have to rush into the 6/6 and then attack the Gosper with the weapon, which would take a net 7. Actually, would just die. So it has to do this and then rush over the Gosper. But now nice. 1 damage off lethal. Conviction is out. Any damage is an out. Not Crab Rider.
It's not it. Very nicely played here from Tincho to bring it this close, but still not over the finish line. We're very near to the end of this game.
Yeah. Had multiple draws there for lethal outs. First day of school could be lethal with Elven Archer. Night of Anointment. There's only a couple holy spells left in the deck. There's Conviction and Hand of Adal. Both could, Hand of Adal could draw into Conviction. There was also Kazakis, which had multiple, well, pretty much one avenue for lethal. So I think it's just load up the board, hit face, and hope that this Hammer of the Naru gets here. But this is a lot closer than I would have expected. But it does seem like Luna might have the tools to get out of this. It's just the Oh My Yogg being there is rough.
Yeah.
And the Divine Shield on the Goody Two Shields is also rough. What she wants to do is try and go for a big burst of healing to try and play around Conviction the best way. Oh.
Okay, Warglaives don't solve anything. Start things off with Wand Maker. Activate the Oh My Yogg.
Yep. And then I don't think this can go wrong, right? Unless it's Arcane Shot to her own face.
Okay. Clears off a minion.
So has to now go Chaos Strike, Relentless Pursuit, and just smack face. I don't think there's any skull outs. This would be 6, 7, 9 healing. She would go up to 10. Conviction would be lethal again. She would have to hit the 1/1. Oh, no, wait, the Galloping Savior.
Yeah, the Galloping Savior is a problem.
All right.
Has to use the Relentless Pursuit.
All right, so I want to take a look at what's left for Tincho. So Knight of Anointments can hit Hand of Adal and Conviction. That's the key. Hand of Adal or Conviction just by themselves as well. Very close. Kazakis. He's got 8 damage showing. Needs to find 2. So many outs.
Oh,
Asper's not an out.
Close. It's not game over. But it's not like Luna is out of the woods yet either. The fact remains that Tincho still has pressure coming in, and Luna still has to deal with it. She just barely survived for one more turn. And at this point, the Demon Hunter, I don't even know how you pull yourself out of this spot if you're Luna.
Skull. Skull is magical. The problem is there's no skull plus...
Whoa.
I mean, okay.
Oh my goodness. Huge pickup here for Luna. Tincho really uncomfortable with this spot.
She needs a second Aldraki Warblades. That'd be ideal. Relentless Pursuit as well. Wandmaker? Nope. Chaos Strike? Nope. Bladed Lady? Nope. Relentless Pursuit? Nope.
It's too
it's so close.
Okay, wait.
1 mana spells? Illidar Studies and
Fell Blast?
I-Beam? Or Fellscream Blast? Double Jump? Nope. There's only Skull left in the deck as a...
Yeah, I'm not seeing it. I am not seeing it.
Oh,
Luna.
man.
I think that Tincho has done it, and in a situation that looked unwinnable in the mid stages of the game, Tincho able to stay the course and show you why Paladin can be so difficult to deal with. Really well done from Tincho's end. Luna, of course, spotting nice board clears, but we kind of talked about how it wasn't addressing the core issue, is that Paladin was able to push damage every turn and keep something onto the board. And it was funny that, we were talking about how utilizing things like the Divine Shield makes it so difficult to deal with that Paladin. And without the ability to go for big board sweeps with the Shard Shatter Mystics, because you don't have the Soul Fragments as part of that deck, this mid-range Demon Hunter does struggle with the situation fairly often, which is part of the reason why we talked about how aggression can be often the time to way to deal with what feels like crazy amount of damage and pressure coming after the Demon Hunter.
Yeah, that's insane. And, I feel like the subtle part of that game that impresses me is how good Sword of the Fallen still is, right? Because in that mid-game, Tincho was drawing gas instead of secrets, right? Because he was able to pull out all the secrets from his deck with double Sword of the Fallen. So the power level, because those secrets, even though Luna did a great job of playing around them in that mid-game, they were still forced to be addressed at some point. And so just having those secrets, not having to draw those off the top, and instead just drawing minions and drawing pressure, that ended up being a huge deal. And Tincho even had like 3 turns in a row where there was multiple outs off the top for lethal damage, still won despite an atrocious early game for his deck. So very impressive, and like you said, showing the strength of Secret Paladin still, especially these more aggressive versions, because that damage ramps up incredibly quickly.
Here we go, game number 3. Demon Hunter versus Demon Hunter. 2 decks which have received those early losses. But previously, we saw a different variation of this matchup. We saw Nalgidan play the Soul Demon Hunter, and we saw Frozen play the OTK Demon Hunter. This time we have the mid-range variant, which, in your experience, TJ, do you feel like this version that Luna has performs better or worse than the variant that Nalgidan has?
I mean, they're incredibly similar. Well, oh no, Nalgadon. Okay, sorry. I thought you were talking about Eddie. Nalgadon had the Soul Demon Hunter. I like the mid-range version a lot better. I like having early minions because imagine you're playing Soul Demon Hunter in that last game. You have no ability to clean up those boards early on in the game. You're 100% reliant on Shard Shatter Mystic to clean things up, whereas this deck has a lot more of those small minions, has Battle Fiend, has the Deadeye, right, for the free hero power to play for tempo earlier on, so you're not reliant on having Soul Fragment and Shard Shatter Mystic opening to deal with like these early aggressive starts. But it does have like more consistent reach damage, right? You have more just weapons, Soul Shard Lapidate that can go face in the mid game to set up lethals. And that's kind of where the difference in strength lies. But I do prefer the mid-range version, having played both of them, just because it feels like it's more consistent.
Yeah, I think so too. You get less of the very unusual soul fragment draws that kind of mess up a lot of stuff, both activating too early, you're trying to activate them, but there's none left in your deck, etc. So I'm in agreement there. And maybe Tincho will probably start feeling a little bit of that pressure coming in soon now that the Battle Fiend has hit the board. Sometimes I wonder if it's worth burning a card like Immolation Aura against the Battle Fiend and cards like that. But Tincho instead prioritizes the Raging Fell Screamer to challenge. I like this. You know, it's one of those situations where he's not in a rush to necessarily play his Gul'dan as fast as possible because he knows that the damage can ramp up, and he's going to force Luna to either give up the Battle Fiend or deal with his own Fell Screamer, which I think is great. I'm going to play in the Kazakis, looking for a very high octane power turn 5. Summon a copy of this with a Divine Shield as the other pickup, because that's usually one of the hardest things to deal with when you're able to summon 2/5/5 with Divine Shield.
Yeah.
I guess we will find out in just a moment here. Tincho going to very systematically remove what he can, clear off the board, draw a ton of cards, everything holding up well on Tincho's end. Very normal, nothing suspicious, just going ahead and collecting resources as you do.
Nothing suspicious. Nothing to see here. Move along, folks. Just drawing some cards. Does need a Moarg, though. That's the biggest thing to get this philosophy. I think the philosophy is just going to be played next turn no matter what. Just be a bonus to hit Moarg because Tincho really wants the skull on 6. Oh, that is the juice. That's the juice so right hard. There.
Rock hard, if you will.
Yeah. Golems do tend to be rock hard, Dan.
Yes. 2 golems, 1 demon. It's very, very difficult right now from Tincho to try to remove that. But, as you were mentioning, does have a couple of plays available to him. And I think that now that the golems have presented multiple threats, even if Tincho wanted a Skull of Gul'dan on 6, that's kind of risky. You're accepting that you're probably not going to clear the board this turn. If you play Skull, you're probably not going to clear it the next turn either, which means that you want to take 20 damage. I think not. Tincho might have different priorities, and I wonder if the Fellscream Blast or the Illidari Studies or anything like that can help him start to at least formulate a deviation from his game plan. Oh, I thought this was the other legendary. Instead, it is Selena, so it's not exactly something that Tincho wants. Going to go ahead and dig with Spectral Sight. No dice, but at least he has the ability to use Philosophy here.
Yep, and Immolation Aura gets to trade over one of these philosophies, hits the Moarg, has Skull for next turn. The problem with the Skull now is the hand is full. So that might be a little bit difficult. Maybe even have to dump a Moarg. 8 cards in hand would be at 9. Dump Moarg, Skull. Would need to hit something playable, but that's very likely in this deck. So it would use up the Raging Fellscreamer buff. Unlike Skull, if Skull hits a Moarg, then the cost is discounted. You do get to keep the discount on the Moarg. But if Raging Fellscreamer reduces it and then you copy it with Philosophy, only the first Moarg actually gets the discount. So we'll use that buff up, but I don't think that's a huge concern from Tincho. He really just wants to be able to draw through his deck and have those discounted cards from Skull. So I think he's fine to just dump a Moarg in this case. And Luna, it's a little bit more difficult to talk through the potential plays from the mid-range Demon Hunter because a lot of times there's not too many decision points, at least at this point in the game. It's just about maximizing damage because you just need to kill them before they kill you.
That's pretty much the game of Hearthstone in a nutshell. Kill them before they kill you.
Not Priest.
Yes, let them either quit or kill themselves, right? In terms of it, like fatigue, is usually how it works. You are correct. There are some exceptions to the rule. From Tincho's perspective, what do you try to do to navigate around this then? Jockey Warblades to start things off. Eliminate this 5-4. Remove the pressure onto the board. It will start to rack up. Also, the way Luna has set things up kind of indicates that she wants to play a Skull Gul'dan because she's playing like the far left card. It's a little bit mana inefficient. Wasn't really powerful onto the board. So you have to imagine that in the back of your mind, she would love to set up a Skull Gul'dan, which will lead to a lot more powerful plays in the 2 following turns. So Luna, what does she get? Thinking about the Illidari. The Illidari is obviously one of the more powerful ones because you can squeeze in damage. Oh my god. Oh, okay. I thought it was the second one, but it's a Blade Lady. Finds another skull.
There's 2
and now
set up.
Yeah, I was thinking about like, do we have the opportunity to pressure and kill in 2 turns? So we have 2 Furies, so that's 6 damage. We have the 3 damage over 2 turns with the Warblades of Agaznath, and we have this 5 attack Golem. So that's 17 just by itself.
That's definitely a 2-turn lethal setup. Gets to put
the Illidari Inquisitor has 8.
4 more damage this turn. Puts Tincho down to, okay, never mind. Gonna get rid of the spell damage, which I think is wise. Still gets to set it up. 15 damage, and there is 9 plus 8, 17. Set up next turn. That's if the Golem is dealt with. 22 if it's not. Insane. Actually, even more, because there's a hero power that can be fit in. That's 18.
Right.
So just an I-beam is not enough.
Yeah, and what I like about it is that Luna plays the glaive. It's like moving cards into position, right? Like playing far left. It's mana efficient. It's also relatively innocuous. You're talking about Tincho saying, hey, nothing sus going on over here. Luna's like, yeah, I just drew some cards. Oh, well, I couldn't play them. Maybe they were just a little bit awkward. Who knows? Next turn, she's going to reveal the master game plan. Okay, the Acidic Swamp Ooze, is that going to be the key here?
He still needs to kill the Golem. And
the Golem is still really problematic.
Doesn't look like Tincho's going to be able to get through this turn. I-beam? Nope. That still has a chance. I-beam? Nope. Morg Fellscream? Nope.
No, I from what we're talking about before, we've had situations where Tincho didn't have enough damage because he committed too many resources to just trying to deal with one threat. Luna has a full hand, and that's also just full combo. 2 Furies is 6, Hero Power is 7, Illidari Inquisitor is another 8, plus the Golem. That is overkill. That is game 3. Luna's up 2-1 in this quarter final, getting a win with the mid-range Demon Hunter over the OZK Demon Hunter. And a job well done, being able to just show you very standard procedure of how to deal with those combo decks, applying just enough pressure, but also maybe going back to show you just kind of how nutty Kazakus is when you're able to land powerful tempo options like that. When Kazakus was first revealed, we weren't entirely sure how good the Golems would be, right? Because we're so used to the potions in the past and how swingy it was from then. But the more we got to play with it, the more we realized that is a really difficult thing to deal with. I mean, the Golem didn't die for the rest of the game for Luna. Like, one of them did, but Tincho had to just keep taking 5 a turn, and that just is too much from a deck that's trying to burst you in the late stages of the game like this.
Yeah, and you can kind of get a sense of what I meant by in that matchup. The players are fighting against their own decks, right? Like, you can do all you want in that game, but you need to find the cards that essentially make your deck function. The burst damage from Inquisitor from the mid-range Demon Hunter side, and then the actual ability to survive or OTK when you're talking about the Demon Hunter. So kind of rough. But now we're going to move into Face Hunter for Luna. I think probably the most powerful deck in her lineup. And that's going to be versus Tincho's Face Hunter or the OTK Demon Hunter again. And Tincho is going to go Face Hunter. So, mirror match.
It's going to be fast and furious. You know, a lot of people talk about Nosdormu Day of what it's like playing games where you have 15 seconds or less. A nice substitute alternative is to just queue a Face Hunter and hope that someone else is queuing up Face Hunter. And see if, what ends up happening. This is going to be a game that could be decided as soon as turn 2 if things get way out of control for one player versus the other. I've seen some games end incredibly quickly with this kind of matchup. So let's have at it. If Luna wins this, she advances to play into the semifinals on Sunday. If Tincho wins, he gets a chance at game number 5. And we'll have to play his final remaining deck, the OTK Demon Hunter versus that Hunter.
And the decks are almost identical. Only 2-card difference. Tincho has a Knife Fender. Not the greatest card in this matchup because it damages you and you don't want that, and it's not enough board presence to argue for it. And then a Headhunter's Hatchet, whereas Luna has second Arcane Shot and Cult Neophyte. So more early game prowess, which I think is going to give the advantage. But Tincho's also on the coin. And in the past, being on the play on Face Hunter was quite good because you had the initiative. You could decide whether to trade. You were the one dictating the pace. But with Kokar Pack Runner, you can go for big swing turns on the early boards because of coin giving you a free rush minion, being able to go Kokar Pack Runner coin 1 mana spell on turn 2, which usually is enough to give you the board to be able to try and run away with the game. Tincho doesn't hit Kokar Pack Runner, so now we're kind of back to old school, but again, does have power play. Could go Intrepid Initiate, coin Wound Prey, which would clear off the Initiate and give Tincho a Adorable Infestation target next turn, which I think is incredibly valuable. I actually like that play a lot. It's a nice card.
I like it too. Seems very solid if he wants to go for it. And the Wound Prey to start things off here. Okay. So this allows him to save the coin, but this also makes sure that Luna doesn't have the ability to respond right back. Knows that she has, for example, that second copy of a Arcane Shot. Doesn't want to open himself up, and now he gets to take the initiative. This is a really good spot for Tincho, and now Luna is behind.
Yeah, that was a risk to not go for the Intrepid Initiate, because if Luna had pretty much any playable card on 2, Tincho could have fallen behind. I'm thinking like Kokar Pack Runner, just playing it on 2 in that position would have put Tincho behind, I think, but the risk pays off because now he gets to hold on to the coin, which means Trampling Rhino could come out to gain board presence on 4 to whatever Luna plays. Can set up to kill like Warsong Wrangler. But the one thing about Trampling Rhino is sometimes it can be worse to play it first if it's not buffed, because then your opponent gets to play a Trampling Rhino back and like value trade over. It's kind of this weird dynamic where you might be able to gain board, but if you're just playing Rhino and that's your whole turn and your opponent gets to respond, sometimes they can Rhino you right back and actually gain initiative. But I don't think that's going to be the case in this game, since Tincho just has such a big board lead and is actually forcing Luna to be the one to decide whether or not to make trades.
It's true. Rush does have this interesting dynamic where if one player's ahead, the person that has to play Rush first in response can sometimes be behind because they can't charge the face. And so Rush would have, you just keep trading the rushes, right? And the person that goes second ends up having the final say if the Rhino ends up surviving. So I definitely can see that. But, there's bigger issues on the horizon here. which is not necessarily the Rhino dynamic, but it's more about can Luna even deal with multiple targets here? And she can, but it does come at like this weird question mark of what ends up becoming the secret that she's able to cast from this Rinling's rifle. She doesn't find anything too good. Snake trap, explosive trap, open the cages, all subpar.
Yeah.
Ooh, a damage push to face. Okay.
She has to, right? Because that's the secret that she was given.
Snake trap.
It's a rough situation to be in because Tincho showed last turn that he doesn't care about the minions. He put the initiate face with the Mancrick on board already. So when faced with the same situation, he's not going to trade it to your minion, right? So, and now he's just going to go. Going for Volpertinger here means there is another hit for the Rinling's rifle. Explosive trap could punish this a little bit.
Right, the second swing could punish a little bit, but I think I like... Oh, wow, the explosive trap did end up coming through. I think what I like is that he knows that Luna also wants to develop onto the board, so he could easily use the trades to just eliminate the board and push damage anyways.
Yeah.
And I think that what Tincho cares most about... Oh, wow, the man... Okay, Mancrick summoned the Ogra. Drawing more damage burn. Getting a little spicy up in here.
Is it
maybe
enough?
Luna pushes damage?
So if Luna pushes damage here, there is, with explosive trap up, there's 10 damage represented. Can he piece together 7? I don't think so. Not with 5 mana.
Wow.
And now he's at 17. This 310 isn't going anywhere. Doesn't want to trade into minions because of potential snake trap or pack tactics. Doesn't want to give up the face damage plan.
Yeah.
Luna has 3, 6, 8 damage from hand next turn. I mean, this one's going to be close, but it all depends on how Tincho decides to react to this board. Okay, Adorable Infestation. Is that enough? So now gets to push an additional 4, so that's 14. Yeah, it's lethal. Adorable Infestation goes on the Volpertinger, pushes all face, and then Wound Prey plus Hero Power. That's exactly 17.
Nice. Oh, well, had the Arcane shot as well. But that's going to do it. And Tincho able to squeeze out a very narrow victory. And overall, you can show that this is a fast matchup. Turn 5 kill from Tincho to even up the series. We mentioned how you don't want to blink too many times because the game might be over. I mean, that was one of the fastest games of Hearthstone you'll see in a hot minute. That isn't just a good steed. Essentially, we'll be able to tie it up and send it to game number 5. Now, we do have to mention that the last match is going to be one that potentially is also decided very quickly. OTK Demon Hunter, I play a lot of this deck. I've died a lot with this deck, and I've died very quickly because aggressive decks just have too much pressure. So we'll see. But overall, TJ, let's break down once more about what you liked about this game. Overall, I think this was a pretty interesting aggro mirror, even though it ended so quickly.
Yeah, it was. You said it. This game can be over as early as turn 2, and I honestly think it was. Luna missing a turn 2 play and having to hero power on turn 2 in a matchup that's incredibly snowbally. That's rough, right? It's hard to come back. I think that Luna did the right thing. If she avoids lethal and those secrets provide enough disruption to where Tincho feels forced to trade and not attack into explosive trap, if that turn plays out the way Luna had kind of set it up to, and Tincho can't push the damage, or if he does push damage, leaves all those minions up on board, then maybe Luna finds the damage with how many cards she was able to draw up until that point. But just playing from behind it in that Face Hunter matchup just feels so bad. So a pretty rough one. But now I still do think Luna has a good matchup here. You have to find a crazy balance of dealing with minions, giving up combo pieces, finding ways to win the game in this matchup as the OTK Demon Hunter. But that's a good start. It's a good start. Immolation Aura, Sigil of Flame to be able to keep the early.
Yeah. I mean, that's as good as it gets. Is that a 3 keep from Tincho?
3 keep. Luna's shaking her head already.
Oh,
One, because hand is terrible. One of the Warsong Wranglers is already dead. Not much early pressure. Another expensive card picked up. And saw a 3 keep on the side from Tincho. That is a bad, bad sign.
Certainly not a good omen. But, I mean, the plays are pretty straightforward here from Luna. Lament all we want about the card draw. We still got to do something on turn 1. Pretty sure it's the Wolf and Tinger and pass. And so Luna has to figure out if there's any other course of action on turn 2 other than hero power. And I don't think there is. A great start here for Tincho.
Yep.
TJ, this feels like a World Championship finals with this kind of draw. Where it's like, all this hype, it's game 5, and I think on turn 1, we know who's going to win. But with that Mancrick draw, we actually don't know necessarily. I mean, that's the hard we need to deal with. So now we're cooking with gas. That's the kind of stuff we want to see to keep this game competitive. Because that's not an easy minion to deal with right now.
Yeah. I guess Sigil of Flame hero power and then just commit to Immolation Aura next turn. Or I-Beam, I suppose.
I know there's a way.
Il'gynoth, you definitely don't want to be drawing that early in pretty much any matchup.
Yeah, that's a dead
Unless you have
draw.
a skull on the far left and you're playing against a slow deck and the rest of your hand is combo pieces. But this is not a slow deck.
I mean, is it
What are you expecting on
just the
3?
sigils?
Not much. I think it's just Sigil and then Hero Power face because the 1/1's going to get swept up anyway. It can't get buffed out of range by anything for the Sigil Flame. That, again, commits you to Immolation Aura next turn or I-Beam. But honestly, you have to find a way to deal with that Mancrick at some point because 3 damage a turn, not going to end well.
Absolutely. And, you know, as much as we were kind of tongue-in-cheek about how the draws have ended up being really bad for Luna, I mean, that was not a good pickup for Tincho. And another draw like that could end up being disastrous for him moving forward, especially if Luna's able to pick up a reasonable card to play. Wound Prey is not it, though. You know, if anything, Luna was probably hoping for, you know, just another way for her to capitalize off her damage going into turn 4. With the Sigil coming down.
Just to fill the mana? I don't even know.
Yeah. You know, I was just thinking about like whether or not she could capitalize off like Adorable Infestation, just push a little bit extra damage, get things going. But right now, the Sigil of Flame is just threatening too much. I would not mind an Arcane Shot here instead. It's pretty much always going to go face because you're trying to rush down your opponent. You actually have ways to deal with minions through the form of the 2 Trampling Rhinos and Piercing Shot. They're always going to be attacking minions for the most part. So I feel like Arcane Shot's never going to be used to trade. I guess the difference is that, one, Luna would be, you know, having less cards and showing a lot of information to Tincho. And also, like, you know, reduces the amount of range that Luna has in terms of plays moving forward. So perhaps the hold here makes more sense in terms of the big picture.
Fair point. Yeah, Arcane Shot can be used in some circumstances to like deal with Moargs, but you're right. She already has so many ways to deal with minions in hand that I think it would be redundant to try and hold on to it for that purpose. Okay, Tincho's holding on to these Moargs because he wants to go for the big swing of hell, like double Moarg and I-Beam, or even potentially, since the Moargs are buffed, could go Moarg Immolation Aura to deal with a little bit bigger of a board, and then have the second Moarg to deal with I-Beam. Doesn't want to throw it out there, like in case of like to let it get killed by Piercing Shot, but... Oh, wait.
Okay, I mean, now we're starting to get to the point where Tincho can survive and also maybe even put together a win.
Needs mana. That's the big limiting factor because all of these are full cost. So like Il'gynoth, Morg, Fellscream Blast is 9 mana. I don't think he can hold on to all those things until turn 9, just because of how fast-paced Face Hunter can get. But he's got to smell a little weakness. Luna hasn't had the best opening. Not really putting on that much pressure. Still at 16, so it's some pressure, but that's what the deck is designed to do, so I would hope it would be able to get some damage in. It's actually a tough turn, because again, how does Tincho spend all of his mana? Does he really want to throw a Moarg out into the board and just leave it up to Luna to be able to remove it without getting any healing benefit off of it?
Yeah, and Tincho knows that based off Luna's hand, hero power on 3 and 4, turn 3 playing nothing else, I think Tincho can deduce that Luna's hand is either a lot of burn or Trampling Rhinos coming out next. So, very wisely utilizing his resources, but perhaps the most valuable resource that he was able to burn that turn was his time. Utilizing and think about like what Luna will be doing. It's very likely a Trampling Rhino. How will he best respond? He's got his I-beams and his Moargs ready to go. Not to mention, let's say Luna doesn't do anything in the absolute worst case disaster scenario for her. Tincho could just pick up Skull Gundam and play it as well on 6. So things are looking very good for Tincho. Although we have seen some situations where the OTK Demon Hunter has been in a spot like this and then just proceeded to draw complete air and then just die.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much happened this series, right? Looking like he's in a great spot in the early game, just doesn't find the ways to survive even off the Skull. Luna's Face was a tough decision because we are approaching the Skull turn. There was a double jump played, which is now the far left card in hand. Could be a Skull. Because of that, playing Rhino onto the board just makes sense, because if Tincho wants the Skull, he's going to be taking 5. But Tincho wanted this to happen, wanted the big min to be played, so he actually has an excuse to play Moarg plus something. And holy moly, Ethereal Aug Merchant, like spell damage picked up, he actually is just a couple mana away. A little bit of mana away from nearly finding lethal. And maybe even if like he plays a Moarg and it sticks, might even have it as early as next turn. No, it won't quite have the mana to be able to do that. Still, 28's a lot. So I think some combination of Moarg plus I-Beam happens here. It's just how big does he want to go? Does he want to play Moarg plus Ethereal Aug Merchant I-Beam to gain that 2 additional health? Does he want to play double Moarg I-Beam to gain additional health?
Yeah, I mean, the extra health is valuable, so I like it. Does weaken his board just a tiny bit, so that now you got me saying it. The Trampling Rhino.
Trumpeting Rhino, Dan.
A little bit extra damage. And so Luna Love, she was originally thinking about whether or not she can just chain these Rhinos, and now I'm thinking about whether or not she wants to use the Rhino to attack the Aug Merchant and perhaps just use Arcane Shot to eliminate the Moarg Artificer. That might be a much more efficient use of it. That's a way to squeeze out Arcane Shot's value to be higher, and would also show that holding on to it was really valuable.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that play. For those wondering, Piercing Shot does not work in the fun way with Moarg. It doesn't take that extra damage and then fling it into the face. Like, Piercing Shotting this 2-1 does not throw 11 damage face. Because the minion takes double damage, but still just throw the 5.
That would be so sick and so not cool for Tincho.
Yeah, since it's minions that take double damage, the extra damage it doubles when it hits the minion. It doesn't double and then stay double. But yeah, I like the Trampling Rhino Arcane Shot play, but I Piercing Shot just plus a hero power, or just Piercing Shot just plus hero power. It's like more efficient damage, but then you leave the Moarg on board.
Okay, let's count.
It's not lethal. It's only 12. 15
right,
plus with the 3 attack.
Yeah, well, it's spell damage.
Oh, it does have spell damage. Okay, you're right. I completely forgot about that. Okay, so it's 2, then doubled to 4, then doubled to 8, so it's 24. Plus the attack, 20. Wait, it's 27. It is lethal.
Yeah, I think he's counting just to make sure.
It is lethal. No, you're right. The spell damage.
I was thinking it was the case.
It's exactly 27.
And now Tincho is able to close it out with
What the
kill
heck?
on turn 7. Luna can't believe it. Tincho able to make the come from behind victory to book a spot in top 4, defeating one of America's greatest players. That's got to feel good. Look at the smile on his face. He's happy because he knows, 1, that was a great spot, and 2, that was a close series. That OTK Demon Hunter looked like it was going to be a liability at many points throughout the series, so he's got to feel really good. And to do it against Luna, of all people, America's most prominent player over the past few years, I mean, that's a great way to end the series if you're a Tincho fan.
That's so funny. You think about, oh man, my OTK Demon Hunter versus Hunter game ended on 7. You're like, oh, I'm so sorry. They can put piecing a lot of damage, and then you say, no, I won.
I killed him.
That doesn't happen very often. That spell damage, I completely glossed over it. And honestly, Tincho took his time. Like his eyes widened at the end there, and he's thinking, wait, it does have spell damage. Wait, it's still not lethal. Wait, it is, because I can attack with it and deal 3 damage with it because it's buffed.